Hello friends, this is CA Nitesh Agarwal. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and today's topic for discussion is works contract under the GST law. Friends, as we all know that works contract has always been a very litigated issue under the earlier tax regimes, but under the GST regime, government has tried its best in order to avoid all such litigations. Under the CGST ACT Section 2 subsection 119, a specific definition has been provided to works contract. So first we will go through that definition in order to understand what all type of contract will construe to be a works contract. Friends, as we all know that works contract is a combination of supply of goods as well as supply of services. But under the GST law, works contract has been defined as works contract means a contract for building, construction, fabrication, completion, erection, installation, fitting out, improvement, modification, repair, maintenance, renovation, alteration or commissioning of immovable property, wherein transfer of property in goods is involved in execution of such contract. So, by reading this definition, we can conclude that all these 13 services, if provided in relation to an immovable property where transfer of property in goods is also involved, then such contract will construe to be a works contract. The point here to be noted is all these services should be provided only in relation to a immovable property. If this is provided in relation to a movable property, then such contract will not construe to be a works contract. For example, we can take a builder who is buying cement, that is goods, and providing labor in order to construct a building. So in this case, labor is a type of supply of service, whereas goods, that is cement, is also provided in order to bring in picture the immovable property being a building. So this type of contract will construe to be a works contract. Whereas suppose a furniture has been provided, or suppose a carpenter is giving a service of manufacturing a furniture for its customer. In this case, the carpenter is providing wood and he is also doing some services in order to make that piece of furniture out of that wood. So in this case, since the end property that has come into picture is not a immovable property, this will not construe to be a works contract. So now when we have understood that works contract should always give rise to a immovable property, we will continue further with some other aspects of works contract under the GST law. Now, as we all know that under the earlier tax regimes, there was always an issue whether works contract to be considered as a provision of service or a supply or a sale of good. As if it is considered as a provision of service, then service tax was to be levied and central government is to be benefited out of it. But if it is considered as provision or sale of goods, then state government was levying VAT on it, and the state government was benefited out of it. So this was always been a litigated issue under the earlier tax regimes. So in order to avoid this litigation, government has specifically said that works contract will always be considered as a supply of service under the GST law. This has been provided under the under Schedule 2 of CGST ACT 2017. That means works contract, even though if it is a combination of both supply of goods as well as supply of services, then also it will be considered as a supply of services only, and all those provisions of supply of services as laid down under the GST law will be applicable on works contract. So the next issue for works contract that we will be discussing about is whether a works contractor can opt for composition scheme or not. A works contractor is not eligible to opt for composition scheme. Friends, as we have discussed in my last video, which was based on composition scheme, this topic was discussed in length, but composition scheme only in relation to works contractor. I'll just brief you on this. Composition scheme is available only to one type of service provider, that is service provided by a restaurant. Apart from this restaurant service, no other service provider or supplier of service can opt for composition scheme. So works contract being supplier of service which is not the supplier of service in relation to a restaurant service will not have an option to opt for composition scheme in GST. So we have covered the definition of works contractor. We have understood that a works contract service will always be considered as supply of service. We have also seen that a works contractor is not eligible to opt for a composition scheme. Now we will be discussing about the input tax credit availability in case of a works contractor. So a works contractor is not eligible to take the input tax credit of the goods or services received by him. Goods or services received by a taxable person for construction. Here the taxable person is the works contractor for construction of immovable property on his own account other than plant and machinery, even when used in course or furtherance of business, even then he will not be allowed to take the input tax credit. Meaning thereby a works contractor, even when he uses goods or services received in the course or furtherance of his business, then also he will not be allowed to take the input tax credit paid on the inward goods and services taken, inward supply of goods and services. But government has provided a relief in case of works contractor for input tax credit only in one case. A works contractor can take the input tax credit in case he takes any supply of services from any subcontractor. Meaning thereby, in case of a works contract, if the works contractor take the services of another contractor then in that case the works contractor can avail the input tax credit on the inward supply of services of the other works contractor. For example, we can take, suppose there is a principal contractor named A. He has taken a works contract to construct a building, and in order to construct this building he takes some services of a subcontractor B. Then in that case B will issue an invoice to A. Now in this case A will be eligible to take the input tax credit of the taxes charged by B on its invoices, as the principal contractor has taken supply of services from a subcontractor in the course of furtherance of its business. So now we have covered few topics which are very important to understand in case of a works contractor. Now let me clear one issue that many of us are having, that under the earlier tax regime works contractor were having an option to take some abatement under the service tax law as well as the respective VAT laws, but under the GST law there is no such abatement given to the work contractors. There is no concept of abatement available in case of work contract. So friends, I hope this video may be of some use to you. We will be coming up with some new and interesting videos on GST law in future. Kindly subscribe to my channel and like my video. Thank you for watching my video.